Things that make me happy are when I've not got to look at a clock.
And eating good food really makes me happy.
Just being here really, it's just life is good, isn't it?
Just getting what you want.
She makes me happy. Sunshine, music, just being, I don't know, healthy.
I like to party, I like to go out.
Hanging out with friends, going dancing.
I guess money also makes you happy.
Something where you're not relying on money.
My cat.
My nephew. My wife makes me really happy. And drinking.
A lying. So being comfortable.
Sleeping, really.
And movies as well.
Watching Liverpool beat Man United away.
Just be drunk.
I don't actually know what makes me happy.
More to life.
More to life.
I'd like to think there's more to life than this.
I often wonder if there is. I don't think there's more to life.
I'd like to think there is, though.
I don't know really.
Don't know everything that goes on in life, do you? So
Yes, I do think there's more to life than this.
I don't know, really.
Hello. Hello. Whenever I stand here and look at you or people, I just imagine how I felt when I first arrived here. And I left after about 7 minutes. The sort of presiding feature of the situation was teeth, a lot of white teeth, a lot of smiling at me. And I thought, you've got this huge agenda, and you're trying to coerce me into something. And there's a very strange noise going on. Thank you. And so I left, and I went. I think I tried twice, and I left both really early, like within the first evening. And I thought the food was definitely drugged. I went on the first time I actually went to a pub, which is not far from here. It's closed now. But when I went there were 3 friends of mine having a beer, and I chatted to them. And they said, "Where have you been?" I said, "Well, I've just been to this thing." And they said, "What sort of thing was that?" I said, "Well, it's like a Christian-y thing." And they went, "All right. Do they have guitars?" And I said, "Yeah." They said, "Well, it's a cult then, isn't it?" And I probably agreed with them. Anyway, the point is, it's quite weird that I'm here at all. I did sort of persevere, and I clung to my seat, and here I am sweatily standing at a microphone on the first night up. And I would say to you that, just because I am standing here, I still have many questions. There are still things I struggle with. But I'd rather be here than not. And I err on the side of belief than not. And it helps me a great deal. But if I'd been asked, the question they were asked on the film, is there more to life than this? I would have said yes, but it's not religion. Anything but religion. I was hotly against it. I thought it was dangerous. And it had it forced it sort of down my throat at school. And I was probably one of the worst sort of anything beyond the material, particularly Christianity. I would throw anything I could at it, or people. And I was quite tricky with them, I think. I've been cynical all my life. I was born probably with a genetic predisposition to cynicism. We had we had to have grace. I don't know if you ever had grace before meals. My family were essentially atheist, but we still had grace. And if there was a God, to me, he just was an obstacle to food, because you had to go through this thing. And so that was how he was. I don't know how you see this divine thing or whether you don't, but that was definitely how he seemed to be. And at school, went through college, and I would have said, any religion is just a neurotic response to existence. We're born into this world. Here you are. You're doing your best. And some people find it much easier to create an invisible friend to which they can talk, and they give them different names, and around the world they have, it's all very, very varied. But I would say that religion is just various invisible friends who have different attributes. And so, as you can see, I'm laying out my sort of table to show you just how I think I could out-cynicize many people here. And I think that life is hard. And I think religion often just poses more hoops to jump through to make it harder. So I would just say, well, why bother? Why do you want to have to feel guilty? Why not just enjoy your life? And Stephen Fry, I love Stephen Fry, and he said, what, after all, is a halo? It's just one more thing to keep clean. And and I think also that guilt was a hugely motivating thing, and I don't like being made to feel guilty at all. I have a friend called, Robin is his name. My brain is frying. And he has a son called Monty, who I love. And when Monty was about this size, he was at the back of church, and there was this formal prayer thing going on, and the vicar was at the front, and the vicar did this thing where he said, let's pray, and he said, I'm sorry for things I've done wrong, and they were about to echo his prayer, and Monty, who was on Robin's knee, looked at Robin and said, what's he done wrong? And Robin said, it's not just him, it's everyone here, we all do things wrong. And all right. And then he got off his dad's knee, and he was at the back of me, he came off the side and went into the loo. And a few minutes later he came out, and instead of going outside, he wandered in front of everyone, literally, and stood there and went, you naughty, 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 naughty people. And when I heard that, when Robin told me, I thought that was a perfect summary of how I saw, Christianity, particularly how it's led, is just made to feel terrible. And the person saying it, is usually hypocritical anyway. So that was me, and how I saw my friends saw it that way, and it's hypocritical and awful, and why bother? And atheism, to me, I was in a batch of quite atheistic thinking people at college, and we all just thought it was fine. And my mum, who I loved to pieces, just has always said, Charlie, just be kind. Forget all these weird religions and weirdness and rituals, and just, if the world could just be kind, it would be all right. And Ella Wheeler Wilcox wrote this. She said, so many gods, so many creeds, so many paths that wind and wind, while just the art of being kind is all this sad world needs. And I'd have agreed with that 100%, that really, that was really all there was. And a few things, we have these kind of wet fish moments where we have kind of huge changes in thinking. And one of my wet fish slap in the face was unexpected, and it was in one of my chief arguments against any theism, particularly Christianity, which purported this God of love, was suffering. And I would say, well, it doesn't really compute, does it? And I was painting in a far-flung bit of Zimbabwe, and I was living in a mud hut, and I spent a lot of time with these people, and they had very, very little. And the suffering in that part was extreme. And I'd never really seen anything like suffering like this. Like cerebral malaria was rife. HIV rates were very high. It was just hard. And what shocked me about it was a lady who in her mud hut had a little handwritten thing on the wall that was sort of nailed in. And it just said, I am the bread of life. And then she had the word Jesus scrawled under it. And I said, oh, what's that? Do you believe in that then? And she said, yeah. And I said, okay. I said, isn't it a bit odd that you struggle to find bread, but you believe that? And I was confused by this provision idea. And she said, it's a different kind of bread. She said, what feeds you spiritually, Charlie? I've never been out of this village, but I know you come from a cold country. But what feeds you in your land? And I thought, well, I don't really know. Ecstasy, sex, football. So no, really. I couldn't really answer. I didn't really know what she meant. I didn't understand the question. And she said, she was just smiled. She wasn't remotely accusatory. She was very, very gentle and very kind. But she just said one thing which really disturbed me and unsettled me for about a year. And it was this. She said, do you know you're loved? And I said, well, I've got people who love me. No. She said, do you know that God loves you? And I said, no. And she just said, he loves you. You are loved. If you know that, your life will change. And I got quite cross, and I thought, I've had an education. I know things that you don't. You get very defensive, and I was very defensive. And I left a while later, but the question never left me, and it haunted me. And my answer was, I don't know. But I thought that maybe I would have a look deeper into the faith. And I remember listening to the radio in my studio, and I have a smelly, terps-ridden, stinky studio. And there was Jack Higgins was being interviewed, who was a very successful crime writer. And the interviewer said, you're very successful, aren't you? I mean, you've really made it. What do you wish, then, you could tell yourself? You could be 18. What would you tell your 18-year-old self now? And there was a long silence, and he just said, I forget this, he just said, I wish someone had told me that when I actually got to the top, there was nothing there. And she paused, she said, what, like nothing? He said, well, of course, there's something, but not what I thought. I mean, I was hoping for something, but this isn't it. And there was this amazing silence, and it's kind of a cliche. We all hear it, but I sort of felt he put his ladder against the wall, and he got to the top of the ladder, and it wasn't what he thought it was. And it got me thinking a lot. And I have been, and still am in a sort of clutch of artists, and we've all been exploring things for a long time in various ways. And you do. I mean, these guys I went on holiday with for quite a while with a few of them, and it was one of those moments where one of my friends is extremely successful painter. Like, he gets 6-figure sums now for something. And I remember him sitting on the end of the bed at 3. He came into my bedroom. I thought, oh no. And are you all right? He said, no, I'm not. And he used the F word over and over again. He said, this is shit. And I said, why? He said, well, this isn't it, is it? We've come this far. We've done this well. What is it? What is it? What do we really, really effing well want? And he was really like all over the shop. And I had a semblance of a faith, but I just didn't leap into Jesus. I just said, yeah, it's a perplexing thing that we're all in this society on this train to succeed, and is that really it? And I suppose for me, I knew something was wrong with us, like in the human condition was strange, but religion was never the answer. And to me, and I think that I've enjoyed reading atheists' books a lot. It's quite strange. I still like them. And Christopher Hitchens is amazing, if you ever read him. But he said this: religion has run out of justifications. Thanks to the telescope and the microscope, it no longer offers an explanation of anything important. And I would have agreed with that, except, okay, but why then, in spite of the telescope and all its discoveries, does the human condition still hanker for transcendence? Why do billions of people still thirst spiritually? Why are we insatiable materially? What is this? Why, Christopher? I would have said that. And I read your books and I love them, but when I read them, I go to them hungry and they don't feed me. I want to be fed. The lady in Africa saying, what feeds you? Your book doesn't feed me. What feeds me? I'm really serious here. I don't want to live my life without being fed in this way. And I suppose for me, and Freud, who I've enjoyed, have you ever read Freud? But he says this, that religion is an illusion. But the problem with it is that it falls within our instinctual desires. What is that instinct? Why are we here? What are we wanting? What has not satisfied us despite everything? And that was my hankering question. And maybe the instinct for it exists because there's something there to satisfy it, perhaps. Maybe. And I was very hungover one morning, and I was lying in bed, and I could smell kind of cow manure coming through the window. I was staying with a friend who's on a farm, and I was woken by church bells, and I got up, and despite my head, wandered up the lane and went into the back of the church and sat down, and there were 8-10 pews and a vicar in a dress and 2 old ladies. And there were an array of different coloured books. So have you ever seen all these in old churches? And there was a green one, and it was a Bible. And I opened it up, and it fell out in the New Testament. And I was mildly interested in the New Testament, particularly because of the old lady in Zimbabwe. And I was reading it. And it just said this, and I will never forget as long as I live. I could have said something terrible, but it said this. It said, I've come to give you life, and for you to have it abundantly. And it was Jesus, a line from Jesus. I've come to give you life, and to have it to the full, really, is what it said. I kept reading it, and I kept thinking, well, what does that mean? And religion to me wasn't life. It was tedium, guilt, control, all the worst things in my life that I'd already experienced. So what was this? And I discovered actually this. And I actually tried to speak to the vicar afterwards, but I was a bit sort of excited, but he was otherwise involved. Anyway, I went to a nightclub about 3 nights later, and I don't know if you ever do this, and this is a confession of mine, and I find it very difficult to describe, but I went on my own, and it was Crazy Larry's. You know Crazy Larry's? Yeah, I went to Crazy Larry's, biked there, got there, went in, and started dancing on my own about 10, and I danced at about 1 on my own. And I danced with the total belief that Christianity was spiritual, and I was dancing freely with a God who loved me. And I didn't tell anyone this for years, but it was amazing. I didn't drink a pint. I just felt free. It was incredible. And I saw, why I'm telling you that is because I've slowly discovered over the years that life is difficult. Faith is not easy. It's a journey, but it's life-giving and full of hope and profoundly rich. And if you're the poorest person in the world or you happen to be the richest person in the world, that's not the issue. It's far deeper than that, far greater than that. And it's, I think, why we're alive is to love and be loved and to be known deeply. And how it's presented, like I think the packaging, like I don't know if you've ever been to Romania. I went to Romania for a while and worked with doing some art with some teenagers, and we were just at the end of the week. The English people were offered this kind of excitement, this exciting tin of tuna, and because apparently English people, that's what they like. And so we were given the tuna, and the tuna was nice, but the packaging really let the tuna down. I've got the tin here, but can we have a picture of that, please? Would you want to open that? It says crap. And I looked at it and thought, in sauce tomate. And I said to the guys, they weren't churchy people, I said, this is actually slightly reminds me of, Christianity. Because it really looks crap. But if you have the temerity and time and desire and you pull the thing, it tastes quite good. Don't you think that's a good analogy? And they said, no. Go away. But I kept the tin because I do think it's true. I think for most of my life, it really looked like the exterior. And I hate to say it, a lot of the time it still does. Sorry. But if you disregard the crap exterior and you dig deep and you get your finger under that thing and pull and dig, you'll find something utterly beautiful. I heard about another Texan, and he was on holiday in Devon, true story, and he approached a farmer, and the Texan said, "Howdy, is this your farm?" Sorry about the accent. And the farmer said, "Yep." He said, "Well, how big is it?" And the Texan said, "Well, it goes from that tree to that tree to that tree to my house there in the corner." And the Texan said, "Man, I have a farm where I come from. I can get in my car in the morning and drive. And by the time the sun sets, I'm still on my own land." And the farmer said, "Yep, I used to have a car like that once." Right, sure. Classic. Oh, I tell that is no real reason. I'm just trying to get, it's just sort of my favorite joke I wanted to tell for no real reason. But you could, on a tenuous link basis, ascribe it to the fact that someone says one thing and then it's taken as another, which was Christianity to me. It was presented in a way like the tin, and you just go, "No, thanks. Bye." I sat next to a bishop. I don't know if you've met bishops or know bishops or enjoy bishops, but I sat next to a bishop at a wedding quite a while ago, and he was in purple, and he was very friendly. And we were lots of tables. It was one of those marquee weddings, and there was a tablecloth and stuff. And I was drinking, and he was drinking. We were chatting, and I sort of thought, right, now is my chance to hound this guy, because I have many, like on Alpha, you can hound people. I hounded him all night. And I said, it's just a stupid, cliquey club. You believe in this fairy queen. You're just parading around in your purple clothes. You're morally superior. You're judgmental. You don't like certain types of people. You argue a lot, blah, blah. I was just spitting venom at him. And what was amazing about him was he didn't really defend it. He just smiled and went, "Yeah." He was very, very gracious, kind man. And he said, he did two things. He told me this joke, and I wrote it down on a napkin. I wrote everything he said on a napkin, actually, because he was extraordinary. And he said, "Charlie, two bishops were discussing the moral decline in Britain. And the first one said to the other, 'I didn't sleep with my wife before I was married. Did you?' And the other one said, 'I don't know. What was her maiden name?'" And I spurted my, bishop. It's a bishop. Spurted my wine on the table. Thought, wow, he's normal and funny. I like you. And then he said, "Listen, I'm going to tell you what I think, and I'm going to, take me just a minute, and then I'm going to shut up and I'm going to drink and I'm going to dance, because that's just what I feel right now. But I'll tell you why I'm here, dressed like this." He said something like this: Charlie, none of us is perfect, but I believe that we are perfectly loved. It's the only reason why I agree to wear these silly clothes. We are human. We make mistakes. That is our condition. We get confused, and it's messy, and life is difficult. But I believe that we're loved and forgiven if we desire it. And this is called grace, Charlie. Jesus is all about grace and forgiveness and love, and that's how change comes. And yes, there are moral implications and decisions we need to make, but it's a gentle journey, primarily a very quiet one, and a quiet relationship, and not an in club or an out club or an exclusive thing at all. It's really all about love, because guess what? That's who God is. And there's a cigarette and stared at him, and then he got up and shimmied on the dance floor to Elton John or something. Anyway, point was, he said that, and it was a wet fish in my face again, like the lady in Zimbabwe. And I went over to my friends on another table, and I said, see that guy dancing? He just said this, what do you think? And they said, don't you dare meander down that road, Charlie. It's dangerous, just leave it. And I said, yes, all right, calm down, but I think he's interesting. He said, well, just be moral. Just be moral, just be kind. Like my mum says, just be kind. And lead a moral life. Isn't that good enough? Surely. And in my loo, I have a book by C.S. Lewis called Mere Christianity, and I haven't read it, but I stare at it a lot. And because I know that you have those books, you know they're good, but you never quite read them. But I've read about a third of it, off and on, and there are bits of it that I have just underline and sort of score with red bar. And this is the bit that says this: Christianity, that's what he says, will teach you that in fact you cannot be good, not for 24 hours on your own moral efforts. And then it will teach you that even if you were, you still wouldn't have achieved the purpose for which you were made. Mere morality is not the end of life. You were made for something quite different from that. And I love that, because I think often we just get to the end of that and think if you just do this, it's enough. And I saw Christianity as just doing that and it would be enough, like it was hoops that you actually failed all the time, rules that made you feel guilty. And rules, actually, if you look at them, will never love you. Laws don't love you. They just tell you what to do. And ultimately, you feel pretty guilty because you screw up. And I think, I think, I'm talking to you really about this essence of love that I'm going like the tin, like the depth of the beauty of it. And I think we're terrible. Here I'm giving you a talk on Christianity, talk about love, and I'm a hard-hearted, cynical, arrogant mug. So I have a long way to go, is what I'm trying to say, and every human does. And Gandhi, who I really love actually, he said this, I'm sure you've heard this quote, it's famous. He said, I like your Christ. I don't like your Christians. They're nothing like your Christ. And I would say that's true because it's probably impossible. Such is his grace and love. And if you've been judged, one of the harshest things I used to endure about Christianity was the sheer volume of judgment I used to feel when I came near anything that looked Christian. If you've been judged for your lifestyle, for anything from the church, from Christians, here's my chance to say I'm really, really sorry. Like, it's ridiculous. It's like it's no one's role to judge. If a Christian has a job, it's to love and forgive. That's it. Judgment isn't part of it. So I'm really, 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 really sorry. I think I've drawn this mouse. Can we have the mouse? I've coloured that mouse in. I tried to colour it in so it was all completely behind the lines, but apparently you can see a couple. Can you see anything that comes out of there? I think above the wheels, but I failed. The point is, that to me was Christianity. If you coloured between the lines like some really good, nice, perfect people who prayed every day and never swore, and if you did that, you achieved that. This is how it was presented. You got this. You achieved that because of how you were and how you presented. And yet, the problem with that analogy is my everyday experience, and probably on my way here, I got really annoyed with a woman who cut me up, on the way, is that I was quite cross. Is the next picture is this. That's me on a good day, wind behind me, everything going all right. Maybe it's not you, I don't know. Perfection personified. Anyway, the great thing about that picture is, for me, what I've learned about this whole thing, why I'm here standing talking to you, is the great relief, and it's the greatest relief in the cosmos, genuinely, I really believe this, is this. That's it. So we're messy, yet loved. Wrecked, yet loved. Profoundly, deeply. And that changes you and makes you less wrecked. It makes you more kind by degree. But no one really gets there. And the reason behind that is this. The last little picture I've got is that. And that's the cross, and that's grace, and that's freedom, and that's you're free to be who you are and loved within that context. And on the course, you'll learn about the cross and that stuff, so I won't bore you with it. But it's a beautiful thing. And I'm just staring at my notes thinking they're actually quite boring, so I skipped most of them. I would say this lastly, that despite everything and all the Christians' efforts to try to reveal what's inside the tin, that it looks really weird. And I think I'm probably quite weird. I think this building is quite weird. And I went to an Alpha conference in New York. And my friend Jamie, who plays the guitar, he was leading the worship for 3 days there, okay, where they sing and go, oh God, we love you, and all that stuff. And he was saying, and he said to me, can you play percussion? And I said, well, vaguely. He said, can you go and buy a percussive instrument and help me? Because I'm just struggling here. So I scuttled off into Manhattan, and the only percussion instrument I could find was this, and it's a banana. But it makes this sound. And so I stood, this is true, he stood on stage, and there were a lot more of you, there were like 4,000 people there. I stood on the edge of the stage, and for 3 days, for every song, did this, okay? 3 days. And then there were the fast ones, going kind of disco-y ones where they all jolly, and then there were slow, snoggy ones that go, oh, you know, and so it went on and on. And you know, I just did it because I was asked to. I felt a bit of a knob, but I did it. And anyway, the point was, at the end of the 3 days, and I was leaving the building, a lady came up to me, promised me, she goes, excuse me. I said, yeah. She said, can I just have a quick word? And I said, sure. She said, she said, I just want to say a huge thank you to you for your worship. And I said, yeah, you know, we try. And she goes, no, really. I mean, it was really something. I said, oh, thanks. She goes, and I was about to leave. She said, I just have one other question. I said, sure. She goes, well, why were you on stage for 3 days shaking a banana? And it wasn't mic'd, so she saw this guy. Three days, not an hour, 3 days. The conclusion she drew is just that Christians are weird. It's just the way it is. And all I would say to you is, yeah, they are, but I'll finish what I'm really saying now. Except if you can get beyond the banana, you see beyond it, and if you can get to the tin and stay and grip your seats and tolerate people that you don't necessarily like or agree with, and get to pull the lid off in your own way, in your own time, in your own heart, in your own being, with all the honesty and all the mess and everything that you are, and dig deep to find love and forgiveness. It's the most priceless thing you will ever, ever discover. And I say that with every scrap of my being as a cynic and someone who's still on the messy journey. So I'd say, just enjoy it. And no question is a bad question. The only tragedy is when you don't ask the things you really want to ask in case they don't sound right, but just ask them and be free. Thank you for listening.